Hello, everyone. I'm Erica Ellis from Living Joyfully, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Anna Brown and Pamela Rickia. Hello to you both.
Hi.
So today we're going to be talking about another unschooling stumbling block, which is when parents have strong beliefs. It's a topic that comes up a lot, and I'm really excited for this conversation. But before we begin, I wanted to invite you to join us in the Living Joyfully Network, which has been really life-changing for me in so many ways. On the network, we have amazing discussions about so many topics since our community has such a wide variety of experiences. Everyone there is really learning and growing and being intentional with their families. It's really unlike any other online community that I've found. The Living Joyfully Network offers such powerful support, especially during those moments when questions and fears come up, or if you're new to unschooling and just need a place where people understand what you're going through. If you'd like to learn more about the network and check it out for yourself, you can visit livingjoyfullyshop.com and click on the community tab. We'll also leave a link in the show notes, and we would love to meet you there. So, Pam, would you like to get us started about unschooling with strong beliefs?
Strong beliefs. Yes, I would very much like to do that because exploring the idea of strong beliefs has definitely inspired an important paradigm shift for me on this journey. Because, of course, we can hold beliefs so strongly that it feels like a truth for us. But the big shift for me around this was recognizing that it was my truth. And that didn't mean that it was a universal truth. Because, as we may have mentioned, people are different. My kids, my partner, my friends, they aren't me. And yes, a strong belief I hold is something that is working well for me, right? That helps me care for myself, helps me be the person that I want to be. But that strength of that belief comes from so much experience. I've probably tried on numerous different perspectives along the way that didn't quite click or that maybe sent me in a direction that I eventually found I didn't like. So trying to wholesale drop my strong belief and all the experience that comes with it onto someone else's lap just isn't going to land with that depth of understanding. And as I was thinking about it, to me, it's really like that web of learning that I talk about. So many bits of life are connected in interesting ways, and that's what's bringing the richness of understanding, not that like one point of information or a belief that is disconnected from a person's experience. So I remember thinking back when I was first playing with this paradigm shift, I just kind of stopped jumping in to share my strong belief in a moment, and it felt a bit like I was betraying myself by not sharing my hard-earned knowledge with the people that I loved, right? Earnestly trying to convince them of its validity and that it's the one right way in this circumstances. Like it makes sense. But when I managed to put the it makes sense to me, let's like see how things unfold here. Oh my gosh, it and they unfolded in such interesting ways, in ways that I could see as I like look back on the moment more closely aligned with the person that they were at that time, right? And in ways that they learned something that stayed with them. It was a meaningful experience for them instead of me popping in with what all the cumulative belief of all my meaningful experiences along the way, right? So it doesn't mean that I'm tossing my belief because I know it works well for me. And nor does it mean never sharing what works for me, right? Those are like the opposite ends of that spectrum, right? And at first, I needed to not share so I could see, well, what would happen? Would the world end? Would they choose like something that I wouldn't choose? And like it was a big catastrophe. Like all those pieces did not happen. So for me, it came to mean just being more careful to share my stronger beliefs without the energy of an expectation that others take it on as their truth, right? I want to be in that space or that mindset first before I share, where I can see it has more information that I'm sharing with them. They learn a little bit about me because this is something that is meaningful to me and makes sense for me. and how so they see how I kind of see the world, how I navigate things. And they're welcome to try it out and see if it fits for them, see if they might want to tweak it, however, without any fear of feeling judged by me if it didn't work for them, at least for now, right? It's not that this is your one opportunity to decide or not to adopt this belief wholesale.
Yeah.
There are going to be so many experiences now and into the future. There are experiences now where I get to revisit my strong beliefs and see if they
Yeah.
are still working for me and see if they're still making sense. So each moment is just like another point in that web of learning, another piece of experience that we can bring with us. And it just makes the next time something similar comes up like a richer moment because we have more experience and more thoughts and stuff to draw from as we come up with the plan for this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that stood out for me that you were just talking about is how one unique our journey is to the strong belief and how it is so involved. We really don't just kind of pop with a strong belief out of nowhere. It comes from this experience, it comes from going down a road that was maybe the opposite and realizing that doesn't feel good. It's we're taking in information. So again, so personality dependent. Have I done a lot of research about this and I feel really strongly and I've done all these pieces? But that's what holds it up is all of that experience that I'm bringing to that moment. So, like you said, we just really can't, hand it over to someone and think that it's going to have the same meaning to them. And I think the challenge becomes too, if we're coming at people with the strong belief and not really giving them a chance to even have a chance to figure out if it works for them. Like
Mhm.
try it on to do. We're coming with this kind of judgment piece because that was the other thing you said that I thought was important. I think it can lead people to believe we're judging them if they don't hold the same strong beliefs. So whether that's our children or partner or friends. And so that's not where we foster understanding. That's not where we foster connection. And so it really, for me, because I do have strong beliefs, 100%, I have strong beliefs. But like you said, it's from my learning, what I know about me. And I can get excited about sharing those beliefs. But just like you, I had to go through a process of like slowing some of that down, making sure there was room for conversation, understanding what's happening with the people around me so that we could have a more rich conversation and it didn't feel like that judgment piece was coming in.
Yeah. I mean, it is such a interesting and rich topic. And that's why I think it comes up a lot because what it can feel like is when we're the one with the strong belief, it can feel like, but this is a fact. And my
Right.
child is going against this fact of life that
Yeah.
I know in my heart is so true and right and good. And so that's where, right, you get those like kind of relationship rubs. And so, but if we come in really believing there is only this one right way, then we can put a lot of judgment on the other person, not give them room to come up with their own answers to things.
Yeah.
And kind of we forget about potentially that whole history that we have
Yeah.
of like, how did we even get to have this belief? Um, and I know we've seen lots of examples, just around of people who have had a strong belief, that they grew up with and then
Mhm.
change it in adulthood, or, the strong beliefs, even when they're that strong, can change. And so
Yeah.
I think just
Yeah.
remembering that and remembering, like, keep noticing that there's not one right way. And no matter what belief you're thinking about, whether it's something about diet or something about, a religious belief or something about the right way to do a certain thing, any belief that you can kind of think of, you can find people who are doing it another way and it's working out okay for them, And so I think just kind of noticing that, remembering that, and anytime I start thinking they should do this, they should be like this, I figured it out and this is the way, that's a good clue for me to kind of pause and get a little more curious about like, okay. this is probably my strong belief and not something that I need to give to everyone else. But I think also there could be excitement about our strong beliefs that make it
Yeah.
hard to not kind of try to put that on everyone else. Like, especially if we've been through a long period of learning and figuring out and trying to see, like, okay, what is the best diet? And then we start eating this way and we feel great and we want to convince
Yeah.
everyone in the world. And so that, I mean, it comes from a good place. But once you start to see the kind of
Yeah.
rubs in the relationship, either with your kids or, other people in your lives, I think that's, I don't know, it's interesting. It's just
Yeah.
another place to do that kind of navigating our relationships.
I think what helped me, because thinking back, this that deschooling season of our journey when we're questioning so many things. So it sparked Erica when you said like it feels like a truth, right? And so what was helping me was also exploring what we've come to describe as people are different.
Yeah.
Because like it's so easy to just assume other people are experiencing the world the same way we are, right? Because that is the only lens we have,
Right.
right? So the idea that people are different, that people could be experiencing things differently, to then, we talk about sometimes not putting ourselves in their shoes, but looking through their eyes.
Yeah.
Like all those ideas alongside, they helped me understand how a strong belief could be my truth
Yeah.
instead of the truth. And that it didn't diminish it just because it was my truth. It's a powerful thing because now that self-awareness that people are different, I can now like really own and embrace what's working for me, right? So it was just really helpful to be able to see that separation that helped me more embrace my strong belief without feeling I had to give it up, because it wasn't the truth. Well, then what is the truth? Like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's okay that it works for me. And there are some really good reasons why it may not work for someone else. It may not work for my child, whether it's from personality things or just experiences, or like it's a different world 20 years later than when I was
Yeah.
whatever age, it's just there's so many different aspects to it. And once you start to see the context, right? We talk about context so much, then being able to bring that to this strong beliefs conversation going on in my head was really helpful.
Yeah, I think the people are different thing is so critical here. And I feel like that was my kids definitely led the way with this, with this
Mhm.
paradigm shift for me. And even in little ways like we experience temperature different, right? So like my mom was always like, have a coat on the kids, kind of, that's a thing. That's a good parent. You're having, bringing coats and putting coats on your kids, not in Miami, but this is like up here. And and so I'm thinking, okay, that's what you do. But then I had a child that just ran hot, like did not want to wear shoes, did not want to wear coats. And I'm like, okay, why do I have a belief that somehow this is tied to like good parenting or like that this is, and so just that little bit of she's experiencing this exact same situation differently, even though that's not a super strong belief, it started to crack that open for me to be like, oh, okay, we actually do really have different experiences of the world. We really do, even something that, I mean, well, the temperature's saying this, shouldn't that mean that, But no, it doesn't because we're all so different. And then it starts to go, oh, I'm really grounded outside and feel great when I move my body outside. This child doesn't. It's itchy and it's scratchy and it's warm and it doesn't feel good and they don't like it. Oh, okay, but aren't we supposed to do this? So then it was just like this crack just got wider and wider as I realized we really do experience the world so differently. And then that helped me get, I feel like Pam, because you've been talking about open and curious for so long, that's what I switched to. Like, okay, so if it's not what I think it's supposed to be, if it's not there's this one right way, I want to be curious about how we're finding our right ways and what that looks like. And so it was a really fascinating process for me. I mean, I really do remember these steps along the way where I'm like, because I had a lot of strong opinions. I still do, but I was much more militant about them in my 20s, in early life for sure.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking it feels kind of like this is something that grows in with age. Like
Yeah.
it becomes easier to see that everyone has their own beliefs as I get older, where in those, college years and a little beyond that, it was like, no, there's one right way and I
Yeah.
know what it is. And so that's funny. Yeah, and I was thinking, this conversation also, like once you start thinking about, what are my own st strong beliefs, it's possible that some of them are so externally influenced that maybe they're not even our own strong beliefs. Maybe they're just part of a culture that we're trying to be
Yeah.
a part of. I'm thinking things like kids need to be outdoors, or kids
Mhm.
should go to bed early, or, things that you may see around you in parenting circles or with parent friends. Um, but if you sit down and really start to think about it, maybe
Yeah.
those aren't, my actual strong
Right.
beliefs. Maybe it's just something that I'm hearing a lot. And so that it starts to feel like it's important. And so, yeah, just anytime if my kid's pushing against being outside because it doesn't feel good and it's
Yeah.
so hot and humid and sticky and terrible, it's like, okay, so which is more important, the like
Yeah.
going outside and pushing that, or is listening to them and knowing that people are different? I mean, there are still people enjoying being outside during this season in Miami, and we aren't, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
if I was going to take on that belief of like, this is so important and everyone needs to spend time outside, it could get in the way of my relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point that some of our strong beliefs maybe we're just like adopted as like the conventional
Mhm.
wisdom that we hear all the
Right.
time. So that's why it is so valuable to just like take that moment to ask ourselves, where is that coming from? And is it something like that makes sense to me? That has that that was one of the things I did a lot of questioning about as we came to unschooling, which was like, so what does my experience look like? Like at first it was my experience with school growing up. Like that came with me wholesale. But what exactly did that look like? Which parts like worked better for me? Which ones were more challenging? Which one, like so taking the conventional wisdom around
Yeah.
school and then is that really true? And then looking back at my own literal experience to see what I could discover and then start to understand what it actually looked like to me and what I believed about it, versus just the conventional story that I had just kind of adopted wholesale. Because it's not like we can do this with everything all the time, right? It's pretty challenging work. And also, like, to, I mean, that's what conventional wisdom is for, helping you move quickly through something. Oh, well, like most people do it this way. I don't think that's gonna make a big mess. And we do it and totally good. Like, those are our
Yeah.
shortcuts. But it's when they start to do things, right? Like rub in a relationship or end us up in a place where we're not feeling comfortable anymore after we do the thing. Like, this isn't working for me as I was hoping, And so that is one other aspect I wanted to bring up too is when our strong beliefs get woven in with our personal values, like I value whatever. I value being open. Like as in like sharing a level of details and or I value as a family. I want us like to be an outdoor family. I want us to be out doing things or I want us to have dinners together or like whatever it is that we feel is a personal value, but to recognize when we like a value like that actually isn't just our own, right? It's not a personal value. It includes other people. When you have a family that you think should all be having dinner together, and it can be so tricky. Like I definitely had that and tried to do that, right? But navigating a value that requires other people to participate in it, oh my gosh, that's when the rubs can start, right? And you can start to realize, oh, and question, is this really something that's important to me? Why is it important to me? What does it look like? Because you start putting expectations on others, and then you start looking through their eyes, and you can see, oh, like I can see why this isn't working for them, etc. It's just like another, as you were saying, Erica, another good clue that we might want to revisit something. And is it and just trying to think through, like, is this a value? Is this a belief? How am I bringing that into the world? Who am I expecting to, like, not just take my belief, but participate in my belief?
Right. And I'm so glad you brought this one up. I definitely wanted you to because I think it's so critical because and I hope I'm going to articulate this in a way that makes sense, but there was an example on the network around this that was interesting because the strong belief that was kind of praised as a personal value was, everyone needs to contribute to the family as a whole kind of thing. And it's like, oh, but it was rubbing, right? And so it was causing friction and causing problems. And it's like, oh, and you brought this up then, like that has to be tricky, to have this personal belief that you need other people to participate in order for it to feel good. And what I think is important for me to recognize is when I put it into a personal value, which is really this strong belief that's come, and I've reframed it as a personal value, it kind of shuts down the learning for me and for those around me because I can kind of stand on my high horse of personal value, like this is this thing and it is a value that we should all hold to be good people. You can just hear it. It's like rhetoric almost, and it's stopping me from seeing anything else. And so that was the clue for me of, oh, okay, if my personal value is to contribute in this way, I can do that, right? That is something that I can do and show up. But if I'm wanting someone else to, I'm not taking them into consideration because we're not even having a conversation about it. I've just already decided that I need you to. And so what was cool about the situation in the network is they really started having different kind of conversations and they started figuring out how to meet all the needs and they started breaking it down into, okay, who feels which way about what things, what feels harder. Let's learn about each other. And so there was all this rich learning and all these, it became so much richer than standing here on this place of, I'm right because this is this personal value. And so I love that additional learning about each other. And to me, these are things that are just so important about learning to live with other human beings in general, and it's not about whatever the particular value is because we all have different ones, and like you said, Erica, it could be, the early bird gets the worm. So everybody needs to go to bed early and get up early. And so, right, they're filtering from all of these kind of cultural narratives. But then we create it as a value that you're a better person if you're doing that, if you're out there, getting this. And so I don't know. I think it'd just be really fun for people to think about where do I have this strong belief? And is it about diet or sleep or parenting or whatever? And again, it's not about letting go of the strong belief because I'm a huge advocate for children. I have a lot of strong beliefs about how I would love all children to be treated. But if I stand there, I'm not learning, I'm not reaching, I'm not connecting with anybody. And so I don't know, that's kind of what sticks out for me. And so I love that you brought that point up.
Yeah, I really liked that conversation on the network too. And I feel like what was interesting about it is so if I feel like I have a value of everyone in the family contributes, and that feels like very important and like sacred and wonderful to me, then I think everyone else should also feel that way, and that the work that they do to contribute is coming because we have that same shared,
Yeah.
like, value, belief thing. And so it's coming from this deeper place. And so then that's why it rubs, because if they're not doing chores, it doesn't just mean they were busy, it means they don't value the family in the same way that I do,
Yeah.
because it's like kind of equating two things that aren't necessarily
Right.
equal. And so if the thing is, we need to get all the chores done around the house, that's one conversation. If it's, I like to feel connected as a family, that's like an entirely different conversation where we could figure out other ways to feel connected to each other that don't have to be, we're all working together to clean the house, because obviously people are going to have different opinions about like what feels good. And so, yeah, it was just super interesting and fun to unpack some of these beliefs for ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think what you mentioned there, Erica, too, is it just bubbled up for me how often as well that whole like productivity conversation. Because like, oh, if I can make this thing mean this and this and this, that's effective and efficient. And like we bundle it all together and hand it to somebody else, but they don't know all these nuanced meanings and all the little tick boxes that we're checking off in our head that this means. And they're just like maybe doing the thing. And we're
Oh my
taking
gosh,
all
that
the implications.
like for a family dinner, I could totally picture that, where like I could picture someone in the family being like, "Well, I'm not hungry, so I don't want to
Yeah.
eat right now." But then it's like, "No, but to me it's everything. Like this is our
Right.
only moment of connection and it's so important and deep." And so yeah, a lot more conversations and kind of peeling apart like the parts that you're wanting.
Right, because in that situation, are we even communicating that, right? So we have it in our head that the family dinner means we're all valuing each other and finding out about each other's day. But have we said that, or are we just saying come to dinner? Because, again, that child who's not hungry may be like, oh, but if you want to hear about my day, or I could hear about your day, like that might be fine. But it's interesting to think about how much we do in our head with this ideas and how much we're putting on it, which maybe we aren't even communicating. And that's why those conversations can be so helpful to figure out what are the priorities for each person and how do we make sure we meet those in a way that feels good to everybody.
Yeah. Well, this one has been a lot of fun. We hope you enjoyed our conversation and maybe had an aha moment or picked up some ideas to consider on your own unschooling journey. If you enjoy these kinds of conversations, I think you would love the Living Joyfully Network. It's such an amazing group of people connecting, having thoughtful conversations about all the things we encounter in our unschooling lives. And you can learn more at livingjoyfullyshop.com. Just click on community at the top of the page and we hope to meet you there. And you can also check out our new Substack at whenschool isn't working.substack.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.